Is this the show page?
It's Larry Steinhouse, and this is the Larry Steinhouse Show. So you're probably wondering why we started 3 minutes late. We started 3 minutes late because I forgot to, believe it or not, hit the, wow. You know, this is, somebody's got their phone on, and they got to turn their phone off because they're listening to the show live while, there you go. All right, so the show is now on, and I apologize.
This is real. I like it.
You gotta love it when a premiere show already starts with technical difficulties. So we started 3 minutes late because I already started the whole show and forgot to hit record. Do you believe that? Is that great? That's got to be one of the funniest things that happened.
I love it.
So let's get back to what we were doing today. So today, can we start again?
Dude, just roll with it. I love it. This is good.
So I want to tell you guys a little bit about what the Larry Steinhouse Show is all about. And the show is about money, business, motivation, or anything of interest. And if you'd like to be a guest on the show, please reach out or email me or PM me. We've been talking about this show for a while. A lot of people got pretty excited about the show, and they're pretty excited about how the show is going to work. And if you'd like, please do me a favor and like or share the show so other people can see it. And today is going to be a really fun show. You can also leave comments if you'd like. You can leave comments on the show, and we can also answer your questions. So today's show is about Obamacare, and you're probably asking why Obamacare. Well, look, I've seen so many posts on Facebook, and Facebook, as you know, is crazy. Everyone on Facebook talks about what they know or don't know about, and Obamacare seems to be very controversial, and most people have no idea what it is. Now, Trump has been trying to repeal Obamacare, and as you know, I mean, it's crazy. Some of the posts that people say are just unbelievable. So I decided to try to help clear up some of the confusion. On March 3rd, 2010, the House of Representatives passed what is referred to as Obamacare. And this is one of the most controversial bills that has ever been passed in modern day. And as we said before, President Trump has been trying to repeal it since the first day he's been in office. I'm hoping this episode will highlight some of the confusions of Obamacare and help sort out the myths from the facts. On our show today, we have a panel who includes some people who are against Obamacare, a person who's for Obamacare, a health insurance expert, and myself. So let's have some fun. Let's talk now. And by the way, if you can do me a favor and just make a quick comment that says you can hear me or you can see me, I'd appreciate that, especially after the technical difficulties from this morning. So the first person I want to introduce to you is Jay Duran, who is a culture coach. Wow, that's not even easy to say, Jay.
Culture coach.
Culture coach. I don't know. You may have to rethink that.
Just don't call me a life coach. Oh my God.
So tell me a little bit about what you do, Jay.
Thank you very much. So culture. What is culture? I'm going to define it here, and then we can all go home. Culture.
We can't go home. We got to talk about Obamacare.
Okay, we could do that later. A metaphorical ecosystem of shared belief created by an influencer. Whether that's your family, your friend group, your company, your community, someone's the influencer. It's usually not the leader. So Culture Matters, we coach CEOs on why they're in business, how to clearly transcribe those values, and create training programs around them so their people are more productive and profitable. And I do that with high net worth individuals, teams, companies, and my coaches, and so on and so forth. So that's what I do.
Excellent.
Culture coach is just how I'm branding it, because no one's talking about what's important, and it kind of has to do with what we're talking about, because it's all culture, isn't it?
So real quick, you are the anti-Obamacare person, and we're not going to get into why, but you had reached out to me and said you were the anti-Obamacare person, correct?
I would say that I speak for all of the ignorant people that don't know anything about anything but might have an opinion.
Okay, hold on. Okay.
Like, I'm going to be totally transparent with it. I have an interesting story to share with people.
I want to introduce you guys now to Gary Newman. Gary Newman is a real estate agent, and Gary Newman is a good friend of mine, real estate agent, real estate investor. And so, Gary, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, you basically said it. I'm a real estate agent for Realty One Group, and I am a real estate investor. I do flips mainly, and I also am a private lender. I've been in real estate full time for about 4 years now, and before that I had a 30-year career in IT for major corporations.
Awesome. All right. And then we have our final guest, who is a little bit of an expert. Would you say so, Ed?
I don't know if I could say that, but I guess you could say it. You said it. It must be true. It's on the internet.
So Ed McConnell is a health insurance specialist. Actually, he's my health insurance agent, and I've been using Ed for quite a while, and I love Ed. Ed's great. Ed actually introduced me to Obamacare.
Yep.
And a matter of fact, a while back, I did another show called Money Chat Today, and you were one of my guests before Obamacare even was passed, and we were talking about it at the time.
Yep.
So tell us a little bit about your company, Ed, and how you can help people.
Well, I'm a certified healthcare reform specialist. That means I do a lot of training and learning and certifying every year. My company helps people get enrolled. So we help a lot of people who are small business owners cover their employees, a lot of people who are on Medicare with seniors, and also a lot of people who need to get enrolled on or off the marketplace with the Affordable Care Act.
Very cool. All right, so let's get started. The first thing I want to do is I want to actually go over to Jay. And the reason I want to go over to Jay is because, first of all, Jay, tell us what happened to your hand recently.
Yeah, so September 22nd, a client, friend, it was Friday. It was around 3 p.m. I get to his house. He had told me, listen, we had a meeting that night. He's like, no, we need to go out. We need to do something fun. You're always working. So come to my house, wear shorts and a tank. I show up. We drive to a buddy's house on 14 acres, and he pulls out what they call a razor. It's a 1,000-pound side-by-side. And I got videos to prove that I was pretty excited about getting on this thing. Within an hour, the razor was flipped over on its side on my arm, shattered my wrist, my humerus, dislocated my elbow, and I have posterior nerve damage, so I can't use my right hand.
That's horrible.
Yeah, it sucked. So,
Yeah.
on the way to the hospital with a bent arm, the thoughts going through my head without health insurance, actually.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Yeah, that's the kicker. So, that's what happened. Yeah, and now I'm going through that recovery, finding out if when, not even if, when I'm getting my next surgery, so to be able to get my right hand back. All right.
So I just learned a valuable lesson, which is turn my phone off because it actually just locked up all the cameras. So what we're going to do, I'm actually going to...
Can they see us or no?
This is hysterical. Every single camera is locked up except for mine. But that's okay because we can continue audio only with my pretty face, unfortunately. Actually, I could still get your faces in here. And I'm going to kill Howard Goldman because I know he called me just because he was watching it on the show. But that's okay. This is what happens when you do a premiere of the show. What happens when you do a premiere of the show? Everyone has to learn that there are little quirks that we have to work out. But I can still get your pictures, so that's fine. It's not a big deal. It's just not going to be. They're just not going to be moving pictures. I'm just not sure if I'm going to be able to go to the
I think we'll survive. I stopped modeling. I'm not trying to model anymore.
I have a face that was made for radio anyway, so that's okay with me.
Yeah,
the worst part is it shouldn't have affected these, which is really strange. But that's fine. It is what it is. So anyway, all right. So all right. So you had a terrible accident.
Serious, yeah.
And so tell us what happened with the accident. When you had the accident, did you have health insurance?
Yeah. So the answer is no. In fact, out of respect to the gentleman who I didn't even know his. I didn't even know him. The guy was on his land. Out of respect to him and his relationship with his wife, we decided not to call the ambulance.
Wow.
So I meditated through the that experience, the 35 minutes to the hospital. I also have that on video if you want to see that.
Oh, you have the 35 minutes on video?
Well,
Really?
I have the video of me actually being driven to the hospital. We'll have to put it maybe in this. It's pretty funny. I'm yelling like "Culture Matters," like like my arms twisted. That got me a lot of props on Facebook.
That's pretty wild.
Yeah. So then I end up in the hospital. I had They put me into, I guess, what's that called, where you're not asleep? You're like maybe an anesthesia. They had to break it back in place, where you're awake, but you're not awake. And apparently this is where I realized that what I do is actually what I'm supposed to do, because apparently I gave a 45-minute rousing speech on time block and productivity while I was under the doctor said, this guy must be some kind of like motivational coach or something. 8 hours. Well, after I got flown in a helicopter to another hospital, so you can just imagine the bill going up from there. The 3-hour surgery turned into an 8-hour surgery where they had to stitch back my my wrist, and that was, it's been since. Luckily, against what they said, I've been able to get the movement back in just about 90% of my elbow and my wrist. However, we're looking at another surgery for that. So, somewhere after September 2018, after I retrain myself how to use my fingers, let's say the nerve surgery goes well, I'll have a hand again.
And this was all self-pay.
Yeah, so now I am.
What are your bills look like?
Enough to not want to look at them, I guess, right? It'll be a clean 100 at least. I mean, we're talking,
You're a vet, by the way.
reason to work.
Just so y'all know, I got the cameras back up.
Okay.
So
sweet.
Sorry.
Yeah, so if they can see that, this is what happened. I can't use my hand.
Well.
Yeah. So this is what I have to say. Straight up, I'll start the conversation. There's no price. I don't give a crap. Okay, what? $1 million? You want $1 million? Do you want $4 million?
Right.
Oh, I wish I was paying $3,000 a month for health insurance. I wish. You know what? Why? Stop being lazy. Go make more money.
All right, hold on, because
now I'm just upset.
We're gonna go.
Right. Let's get real.
I want to actually go over to Gary, because Gary also has a story that it's horrible. But go ahead, Gary. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your
So
story?
you could top that?
Unfortunately, yeah.
Let's get real.
I think I can. And this goes way back. I mean, this is not Obamacare related, but my first son was born with this rare disease. It was called right lung agenesis. He spent 4.5 months in Children's Hospital, where he finally, passed away. And then my second son was born with stage 4 neuroblastoma, cancer of the nervous system. We're back in Children's Hospital again. But he actually got through. He's 18 years cancer-free. But, medical bills, I mean, well over $1 million, well over $1 million. And thank God we had insurance, because, we didn't have to pay that. But, so that was a...
Could imagine. Oh, my God. Yeah.
Yeah, it's rough. Yeah, so the next person I want to go to is Ed, because Ed, actually, the reason Ed got into health insurance is also a sad story. Hey, Ed, why don't you tell us your story, why you actually became a health insurance agent?
Sure. Well, my daughter was born with a rare disease also, and I had coverage through my employer, but the insurance company said they wouldn't cover her surgery. She needed to have a liver transplant to save her life. And this was long before Obamacare. This was 1988.
So now, interestingly enough, I'll tell you a little bit about my situation. I have a rare genetic disorder called Gaucher disease, and it literally costs $1 million a year to keep me alive. Wow. And I didn't want to tell you guys this because Ed knew, but I didn't want to tell you guys this because I didn't want to skew the way this conversation goes. So Jay, tell us a little bit about why you dislike Obamacare.
Yeah, so I would say I dislike. Listen, I wouldn't even say that. I'm in the, let's say, the religious atheist spectrum. I'm the agnostic, ignorant fool that just was too busy to even figure this stuff out. Like, I'm 26. Okay, I'm an entrepreneur since I was 20. I'm focused on building my life, which is about building others. That I haven't taken enough time to. I'm the ignorant naivete that really should have met this guy like maybe, I don't know, a couple years ago, right? I don't have a family that I can rely on for anything like that, right? And that's not me grinding. That just is what it is. So I would say that from a dislike, I would say that would be ignorant statement for me to say per se. However, being that I don't know much about it, obviously the government has failed on educating our culture on how to use that and how to enable us to learn.
I have a direct question for you.
Okay,
what do
sure.
you think Obamacare is?
I believe, well, just from the ignorant standpoint,
Okay,
Obamacare.
The idea,
yeah.
You don't have to apologize for being ignorant.
Yeah, I'm definitely
idea
ignorant.
Of this
okay.
show is because there are so many people like yourself out there who have no clue.
Yeah, that's where I feel like I could.
And your opinion
be
is
their
important
voice.
because
Okay.
you don't know. So
Yeah,
please tell us what you think
Obamacare is the government's best approach in enabling people to be able to be covered, because a lot of people that weren't able to get covered when healthcare was more private or capitalistic. That's my ignorant view of it.
Okay.
because
so-
people got turned down. So it's like it's supposed to be easier to be able to get it now wherever you are in the chart of wealth or from where your demographic or geographic locale or whatever your skin color, whatever it is, you're supposed to be able to get it easier.
So do you?
So
feel
I don't know what
it's-
happened with me. What happened?
Do you feel it's for poor people?
I wouldn't necessarily. Oh, okay, poor. Oh, yeah. I mean,
Answer
that would be the
honestly.
yes.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be like.
Don't worry.
the-
People are going to make fun of you.
Yeah. Well, no. So I would think that it's for. I think that label is poor or rich. You're asking the wrong guy because I'm a life. Oh my God. I'm a coach. Like I don't like poor. Poor is a mindset. Like
Okay.
so. Period.
All right, and
I think it's for people who may not have as much money. It's the intent was to help everyone get care. Correct.
Well, it is, and we'll talk about that.
Okay, so that's what I think. I think the intent is to try to help everyone to get care, and doing that usually you have to take from someone that has more to give to someone that has less, and that ideology has been around since Marx and
Right.
Karl Marx and before him, thousands of years.
So you're comparing Obamacare to socialism.
That's what it sounds
Okay,
like.
that's fine.
I'm
That's
just,
fine.
I'm
That's
just.
not-
Yeah,
it's
that
not-
was my
it's a
comparison.
it's a common
Yeah.
thought, so I have
Yeah.
no problem with it. And
Well,
is there? We'll talk about.
Yeah, I don't have
whether it
enough
is or it isn't.
evidence to. I wouldn't say that, but I'll say that based on the common view of it is that they're take from the rich, give to the poor kind of thing, and that it's a way to help everyone get care.
And you're a small
whether you
business
do that or
owner,
not.
correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And you're not on any health insurance whatsoever.
No, I wasn't on. I mean, I didn't.
Right.
Yeah, no, I
Okay. All right.
no, I wasn't on anything.
I want to go over to Gary. And Gary, tell me a little bit about your thoughts on Obamacare. What do you think it is?
Well, I think Jay said it pretty well. It's kind of a government-sponsored medical insurance plan that allows people to have insurance where they couldn't before. So,
Okay, so and I'm curious about this. Both of you guys, for a second. I got myself on twice. I'm sorry. Hold on 1 second. Both of you guys, for a second. You guys both believe that Obamacare is an insurance policy. Is that correct?
well, no, it's not. In fact, I think some of the misnomer about it is it's a complete government takeover of the healthcare system, and it's certainly not that. It's a program that allows people to get health insurance.
Okay.
And the insurance is through the insurance companies,
Right.
not the government.
So Obamacare is not insurance. It's a
Right.
it's a I don't know.
It's
as you said,
it's a program.
to allow
to allow-
insurance. So
yeah.
so you have insurance through a private person, and I'm not going to ask you who, but it's probably Blue Cross Blue Shield.
Well, yeah, it has to be, yeah.
That seems to be what everybody has.
Well, it's the only one available in Pennsylvania, as far as I know.
Right. Right. So Jay, and you think that also again, Obamacare is an insurance program?
Well, I don't know enough about it to think that. I would think it would just whatever they're doing, they're putting together a way for people to be able to get insured that weren't. And I don't know, is that the fact, or is it, or isn't it?
We're going to find out in a minute.
Yeah,
And
that's what I'm
and
even
that's-
curious
yeah.
about.
And actually, I'm not going to speak for Ed because Ed's going to yell at you in a minute.
Well, good at least.
So Ed, here is our health insurance expert. What is Obamacare?
Well, Obamacare was designed to level the playing field for coverage. Obamacare is not insurance, it's a law.
Okay, so it's a law, and tell me a little bit about that law. Can you tell me a little bit about what's in that law?
Well, there's so much in the law, we could be here for 4 hours.
I bet.
So I can't really do
but
that.
it only took him what? What was it? 1,000 some odd pages, and no one read it. Was the story?
Oh, it's over 20,000
Wow.
pages of law because it was adjusted.
Right.
You know, the bill became, the law came. It came through pretty quickly if you think about it. If it was less than 2 years after the election, it came through, and then we just started finding ways to make things happen. They just kept changing this, putting this in, which they're still doing now. They're still doing it today. Things keep changing all the time. I think that a lot of us tend to think about it, how it affects us personally. A lot of the people who I hear say, no, this is great or this is terrible, they're measuring that to their own personal experience. But actually, there's so many different parts of the Affordable Care Act that are in so many different things. Again, I could be here all day.
Right, I understand it. And I'm going to talk about some of the reasons why I actually believe, knowing what I know about Obamacare, that Jay should absolutely have health insurance through the system.
Absolutely.
And
Should have
he's-
called me Friday.
Yeah. That's a
Open
that's a
enrollment
really good
ended.
question. Yeah, it's a really good question. I know open enrollment was ended Friday,
Yep.
but did it really end Friday? Because I kept thinking that they were going to extend it.
Well, they did.
Oh, that's okay.
So
great.
they did say that for people who were on hold or were trying to get through,
Right.
still have the ability to call in and get enrolled.
And I kind of figured that was going to happen. So why don't you explain the open enrollment period real quick, just so we can at least get people to understand what that is and how that's been extended.
Well, the open enrollment period was designed to mimic the Medicare open enrollment period. The whole thought process is if they're going to take people in without any pre-existing conditions or limitations or exclusions, that they have to be able to get in ahead of time. So this way, you can't wait until you get sick to get enrolled.
Okay, so, right. So and that was one of the fears that people had with Obamacare was that people would wait to get sick. Now, I'm a little confused too. There was the penalty that was also it was like anywhere from $700 or more was the penalty if you didn't have health insurance.
Yeah.
Did Trump completely repeal that? Was it an executive
Well, that's
order?
part of the tax bill that hasn't become law yet, but any minute now, I suppose.
Yeah. Okay. Great. So people this year aren't paying. They are or aren't paying.
They are enforcing the penalty this year, yeah.
They are. Okay. They are. Okay. And so and then Jay, I'm curious what you think about that penalty because as a anti-Obamacare person, you've got to be way against that penalty.
Well, so first, I would say I think I speak for the people that don't even know what's going on, which would probably be every millennial on the planet. But of those, if you're going to label it, is that but it's not because I'm at college drinking and partying or whatever I'm doing the weekend. I've been focused on my purpose, which is my business, for a couple years now, and just didn't put the effort into learning about this stuff.
Okay.
So how did I think about the bill? I was like, I'll just pay that. I'm busy. That was my thought.
Okay.
I'll just pay that. I don't care.
Well, you might have the resources to do that too.
Well, may or may not, right? Well, no, my mindset was not focused on money,
Right.
because I have a higher calling. Money will come. So that's my thought. Oh, I'll pay it. I'll make it happen. And now look, now I gotta deal with it on that level, and I'm okay with that too, because that's
Let me go over to Gary. Gary, so you decided to go with Obamacare, and something you said to me the other day when we were meeting, it was like, I'm pro Obamacare. I didn't want to talk to you about it because I wanted to do the show. But why are you pro Obamacare?
So I just want to comment on something that Ed said, that people base their opinion on Obamacare on their personal experience, whether it's a good experience or bad experience. I personally think that there's a lot of people out there that hate Obamacare just because it's Obamacare or just because they don't understand what it is, and they're just prejudiced against the whole idea. So, and they don't have any experience with it. A lot of people. So, so why am I pro Obamacare? So, again, a little background: 30 years in IT for corporate America, mainly working for two major insurance companies, Prudential and Aetna. I had good subsidized benefits, and I got laid off in 2013. So I went on COBRA, so my premiums jumped from about $400 a month to over $1,300 a month, and that was in 2014. And my concern is, what am I going to do when my COBRA expires? Like, what am I going to do for insurance? And Obamacare was just really coming up at that point, and that was the answer. I mean, that was a lifesaver for me. I was able to go to Obamacare, affordable premiums, great doctor network, easy enrollment, user-friendly website, great and helpful customer service. Every time I called them, I was given great service and courteous service.
Well, you were actually calling your insurance company. You weren't.
No, I called the marketplace.
Oh, you called the marketplace. Oh,
Yeah.
okay, great.
Because I had questions about enrollment and things like that, and insurance, and they were able to help me. And so I just kind of wonder, how is this a disaster? And 20 million people are on the program.
I find it interesting. Whenever I call the marketplace, I can't get through. So I'm actually surprised that you said that.
Well, it depends on when you call them. If you call them at the end of the enrollment period, you're probably not going to get through.
Maybe that. You know what? That actually makes sense because
Yeah.
I'm usually calling them. But now I have Ed make the phone calls for me, so I don't have to do that. By the way, which is a great idea. Get yourself an Ed.
Yeah, we think
yourself an Ed,
that would
Ed,
be pivotal to have someone actually
and have him
assist you
do
with
it
that.
because it's just so much easier.
Right.
I imagine that he might make a good living being able to help people with this, but at the same time, you know what? I have someone who does this for me, and I think it's fantastic. I was on the phone with, is it Michelle? Michelle or
Jan?
Okay. Anyways,
Sounds like Michelle.
Yeah, from something like that from his office. So Ed, why don't you tell us again? So Jay, I listened to Jay's story. And what I know
Maybe you
about
should give some context, of my story. I mean,
Oh, by the way, hold on 1 second. All right, I got just 2 comments over here. I just want to address the comments. One, Demetrios said, "How can we contain runaway healthcare costs? Should there be a standard pricing per region for medications and medical treatments and doctor visits?" I don't think this is the forum to answer that question. I like Holly's point was she found it way too costly. And I have an opinion on that, but I want to actually go over to Ed, and I want Ed to talk a little bit about Obamacare, how the pricing structure works, how, in my personal opinion, what I know a little bit about Obamacare, why I believe Jay should have been on it for 2 years now, and how he really missed the boat. And he would have been he probably would have been sitting here being a pro Obamacare if he would have been on it.
Yeah,
We'll talk about that in a minute.
Well, I want to hear that.
But yeah, you'll be surprised because listening to your story, I know exactly what you should have done. But okay, Ed, why don't you tell us all of those questions?
What is the question?
I know there was way too many, wasn't there?
There was like 5
So, I know.
questions there, so I'm not really sure which one you want me to answer.
That was my fault.
Although I don't think we got any different opinion in that case. I think that it's a lot of you agree with it because of your personal experience, which was good. So I think that happens with a lot of people. A lot of people find themselves in a position, they get enrolled, they have the coverage, they find out that for them it's not as expensive. But what I can tell you is it's different for everybody. Mm-hmm. So we were talking about the penalty, and you were talking about people being able to afford it or having the resources. Well, there's a lot of exceptions for people who don't have the money to pay the penalty, and the penalty is 2.5% of your income. But the largest amount of people who got covered under the Affordable Care Act were actually covered through the expansion of Medicaid. Right. So the majority of people who got new coverage were through the expansion of Medicaid, not private insurance, although Medicaid in Pennsylvania is private insurance. So
basically what you're saying is that people who really couldn't afford anything went to Medicaid, and Medicaid paid them.
Well, yeah, but even
100%?
the Medicaid rules were relaxed; they were expanded, so more people who were earning money, some people will call them the working poor, although they're really not, were able to get into the expansion. So
the Medicaid portion, and I would actually think that the Medicaid portion is the portion that people were concerned or calling it a benefit for the poor,
right.
Which Jay did. He almost went into get off your ass and work.
Right.
He kind of went there and he stopped for a second. That's what most of the people who make money and pay taxes say. Well, why should I give him free health insurance when I have to pay for mine? And I think that's the portion of Obamacare that people complain about when they're going to work every day. I also think that that's a mistake. But that's my personal opinion is they should not look, you know what? You do what you want, you go make your money. Believe me, you're living a much better life than somebody on Medicaid. If someone's on Medicaid, feel sorry for them and let them have their Medicaid and you go to work and make money every day. That's just my opinion on Medicaid. Go ahead, Gary.
Yeah, I was going to say, in order to qualify for Obamacare, and not the Medicaid side, but the regular health insurance side, you have to, first of all, file your taxes every year, and you have to have an income that is greater than the poverty level. So we're talking about people, maybe construction workers who may be making, $30,000 a year, $40,000 a year, and they're being helped to get health insurance for their family of 4, 2 kids and a wife, whereas before it'd be like $2,000 a month, and they're only making $3,000 a month. Yeah. So, we're giving them an opportunity, and God forbid something happens like with me, they're being helped out. So
yeah. Jay was a perfect example
right.
of that scenario, and I really believe you missed the boat. Ed, what do you think that Jay should be doing right now, actually, to avoid the problem he just had?
Well, he can still get insurance coverage. It's just not going to be the same as Affordable Care Act insurance coverage. So at his age...
Wait, hold on. Wait a minute, hold on. You just said something, and I apologize. I'm going to have you go back to that.
Okay.
Affordable health care, what's that?
So, but even before the Affordable Care Act, we had medically underwritten health insurance plans.
Well, I guess I want to make the point that most people don't even realize that Affordable Health Care Act is Obamacare, and Obamacare is just a synonym for it.
Yeah, it's become known as Obamacare, but we don't really call it Obamacare. We call
it
and
that attached to that is a negative stigma, correct? I mean,
right,
culturally.
and that's part of the problem.
Well, for some people, yeah. So.
Well, I know Jimmy Kimmel went out doing one of his skits, went out into the street and asked people, do they like Obamacare? And they're like, no. And they said, well, how about the Affordable Care Act? And they're like, yeah.
I mean, that's it's the cultural stigma attached to it.
Exactly. So just want to clarify that Obamacare is the Affordable Care Act, and the Affordable Care Act is what we're talking about. And the reason I use the word Obamacare is because I want people to understand that that's a big mistake that people are doing it. And I found it funny that if you remember the Mitt Romney-Obama debate, when Mitt Romney looked over at Obama and said Obamacare is a failure. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to call it Obamacare. I meant the Affordable Health Care Act. And Obama says, no, I like that name.
Right.
And that was it. It didn't stick before it officially stuck.
Wow.
So it is the Affordable Health Care Act that we're talking about. at this point. The Affordable Care Act is actually what it is that we're talking about. Not Obamacare, but Obamacare is a synonym for it. So I'm sorry, Ed, why don't you go back to what you were talking about with Jay? I just thought that was a really important point for some people.
Well, the Affordable Care Act does a lot more than just individual enrollments. Although when you talk about the healthcare website and things like that, that's really what it is. So a lot of people know it as the Affordable Care Act for individual enrollments, although it gets into a lot of different things. Okay, so the largest people, the largest number of people that we see who have been helped outside of the Medicaid expansion are people who are self-employed. The self-employed people have the ability to adjust their income based on their expenses. When they have the adjusted gross income, they are qualifying for subsidies on a very high rate. The subsidies help them pay for insurance. So the people who are not necessarily poor have been helped quite a bit.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and actually, this was interesting because I had a similar situation to Gary's, where I had gotten divorced, and I had to go from Cobra to get health insurance. So I called Ed, my health insurance broker, and said, "Listen, what do I do?" And he goes, "You qualify for Obamacare." And the first thing I said was, "What are you kidding me?" I said, "That doesn't make any sense."
Right.
I said, "I'm not poor. I'm not, And he says, "No." He says, "Listen, let me explain how the system worked." And I was like, "Wow, that's pretty amazing." So yes,
I think it carries a cultural negative stigma, and that culture is that metaphorical ecosystem we can't touch of beliefs, whether they're empowering or disempowering, and it carries that.
You're coaching again, Jay.
Yeah, that's what I do, man. I ain't gonna turn that off. But like I'm learning here about this.
Right.
That's obvious. Like my perspectives have changed because now after being her, I'm like, that changes your perspectives. I mean, we're all living through our own personal perspectives all the time, and I think that's what creates the mess. Is everyone has their own personal story that they bring into the equation. So is it good? Is it not good?
You have a certain amount of time, but you told me to cut you off when you started talking.
Thank you. Yeah.
So Ed, and I don't want to reveal Jay's income, but why don't you give us a rough breakdown on what some of the incomes would be, where the income breakdown is, and how much and how the subsidy really works, and why he should honestly be taking advantage of it.
No, I can't do that.
You can't do that because you don't want to, or you can't do it because
it's because it's different for everybody.
Oh, okay, I see. Okay.
So the basics of the rate system is based on age. Okay, so the rate is higher based on age.
That makes sense.
And
right.
then the subsidy follows suit. Okay, and you have increased subsidy based on lower income or on larger families.
Okay, I got you. Okay, because I guess I'm just thinking about myself. I'm not thinking about everybody else's
There's
age.
1,000 different ways to look at it.
Right now. Okay, now, and it's funny because what's coming up right now on the screen is we have Demetrios is saying, Raymond says, what about the deductibles? And we also have Holly who said, my premium is $800 a month plus a $7K deductible just for me. By the way, my deductible is $6,500. Was it 65 or 75? I can't remember. Well, I probably have the same plan as Holly, which is the high deductible plan. So, I pay 100% out of my pocket from $0 to $6,500, I think it is. And then from there.
Well, with a health savings account. So
Right,
you can pay for your deductible with tax-free dollars.
Okay, so why don't you explain how the health savings account works?
Well, the health savings account works. It's very simple. You have the ability to put money aside tax-free to use if you have to pay for your health care expenses.
But you're technically still putting that money away. You're just putting it into a tax-free account.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So you're still paying for it. You're just paying for it with before tax dollars, which of course has an advantage.
Well, it's better than paying with after-tax dollars.
Wait, so
absolutely right.
but you're asking people to put money aside when the average person has $400 in a checking account. That's ridiculous. Culturally, it'll never happen. Period. End of statement.
Yeah,
like you can't argue
with
that.
that one. I was going to say,
That's a ridiculous notion. That's a facade of we're helping. That's like, hey, here's a workout plan, fatty. The culture,
Right.
the belief systems are set up to you will fail. Because if it was enough, it would be off. Or whatever it is. Seriously, real talk. If you're going to give someone a savings account and expect them now to start saving, it's not in their blood. That's a facade. It's a broken system. That's what happens when societies take on all of the weight on the shoulders of the government. People solve the problems, not the government.
What if you were reducing your premium by $300 a month and then setting aside that money that you were sending to the insurance company before? That's how you save.
Of course. And the likelihood that would happen is slim. Just like people
not in my
work
experience.
out.
Well, I actually have to agree with both of you, and the reason I have to agree with both of you is you're right, Jay. Some people just will never do it. They just will never do it. But there are other people who who take a little bit more responsibility for their life. But as you're trying to teach them to do,
The intent is there. It's the execution. So it's not evil intent, obviously. That's why our society is moving forward. Like, at the end of the day, yes, we should all have what we need. Like, we all, love and appreciation. I'm on that boat. I am on that boat. That's why I started my company. That's how I live every day.
socialism is brilliant, right?
On paper, it really sounds beautiful. It's just
but
the execution.
You don't have to have a health savings account. It's just an option for you to have one. I mean, you can still pay with after-tax dollars as things come up.
Got it. Okay.
You don't need to have that to pay your deductibles.
Right, exactly right, and you just have a high deductible. Now, you don't have to have a high deductible plan. I happen to have a high deductible plan because it works for me. I realize that it's like when I take my car to the shop. If I needed a transmission, I didn't buy the insurance for the car, the warranty for the car, because I know I can afford a transmission if that happens to me. Now, that's a different situation for me, and that's why I was able to do that. Now, things have gotten a lot better for me since as time goes by. Some people know my story. I went bankrupt 10 years ago, blah, 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 and it was difficult for me to rebuild, but I've rebuilt now. So having a high deductible plan is actually very good for me. I take the small risk at the beginning, and then from there I go on. So, Ed, I have another question for you that's interesting. What happens when, so how does the actual subsidy work? It's a government subsidy that they pay, so you pay a portion of your health insurance plan, anything from zero up, and they pay the other half, or the other portion, I guess?
Well, depending on what you qualify for. So it's an advanced premium tax credit. So they can apply that tax credit right to your premium before you get the insurance. Or you can wait till the end of the year and take it when you file your taxes.
So if I think I'm going to make, I don't know, let's say $40,000 a year, I get a partial subsidy. Maybe, and again, I'm going to just use numbers. These numbers are not real, but maybe it's a $700 premium, and I get a $300 subsidy, so I'm only paying $400. Mm-hmm. So at the end of the year, I have to reconcile that because I have to say, okay, look, I really didn't make that $40,000. I either made less or I made more. Yep. If I made more, I have to pay that back. Correct.
Correct. And if you made less, then you'll take more credit.
Right. Exactly. So, if I made more, do I have to pay any interest or penalty on that?
You got to pay the money back. That's what you have to pay.
So it's like an interest-free loan.
I guess you could say that. Never thought about it that way. But
okay, so I'm not going to go here. I'm going to let everybody put their dots together. And now here's the other thing: is there proof that you need? What kind of proof do you need to do to show that you're going to make $40,000 or $30,000 or $50,000?
There's no proof. It's only an estimate. So you might be asked to provide your previous year's tax return, but in general, it's an estimate for the upcoming year. So we just finished the open enrollment period. We enrolled close to 400 people for next year. Again, they're all estimating what they're going to make in the next year.
Now, here's the rub there. If you estimate you're going to make $40,000, and then you ended up making $5,000, then you are now disqualified for Obamacare, and now you have to pay all the premium back and get on Medicaid, which it's already too late because the year's over.
Wait a minute. Explain that. It was really interesting. Is that true? Because I was like, that was a really interesting statement.
If you're under the cutoff for subsidies, in other words, if you fall into the Medicaid qualification, then you need to take Medicaid. You can't take the subsidy, and if you decide to buy the insurance, then you pay full price.
Right, but you don't know that necessarily you're going to fall under the subsidy amount until the end of the year, and if you do, then they retroactively go back and disqualify you for Obamacare.
Well,
and then say you should have been on Medicaid, which is free, but now because you're on Obamacare, you owe us all the premium back for Obamacare.
Okay, so during the year, when you know what your income is changing to, you have the ability to reduce your subsidy or get reassessed and then go to Medicaid at any time. If you have that big of a what's the word I'm looking for? Difference in what you're actually earning between what you think you were going to get and what you're going to get. You use the example of 5,000 as opposed to 40. Well, I think that sometime during the year you're going to know I'm not making 40,000 when July rolls around and you've only made $3,000 for the year.
Right.
So then you do have the ability to go in and reduce or completely eliminate your subsidy. And when you do that, when you make those changes, you can requalify for a special election so that you can get requalified and then maybe you are on Medicaid. So you do have the ability to change it during the year. If you take all the money and you're pretty sure that you're not going to qualify, then that's really up to you. you're taking the money, you know you're going to have to pay it back.
Yeah, but I don't think people realize that that can happen. So they.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of people don't
Yeah.
realize a lot of it. So
Yeah, well, there's obviously Jay has missed out. I mean, if your income, what's the cutoff? What's the
you keep asking me about a cutoff. I don't know about the cutoff.
is there a certain amount of income that I'm sorry, I apologize. Is there
Well,
a certain amount of income that you no longer qualify for Obamacare?
Yeah, there is definitely a cutoff, but again, it depends on your age.
Okay.
You know, so
what is
What's
your
the age of 26
I
or
don't
what,
know.
24? No.
I would go to a computer and get all that because it's a grid for every. Well, here's what I could tell you: you can make it in the 90s and have a family of 4,
and still have
and still get a
have-
subsidy to
right.
help you pay.
And you're single,
Yep.
though, Jay, right?
Well, I haven't met my kids. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, no, I'm single. Yeah, I'm very single. Yeah.
And how old are you again?
26.
So
Yeah.
okay, so he's 26. Or just and I realize that you probably can't say it. Okay, that's fine.
Well,
But-
the at age 26, he'd probably qualify for the lowest subsidy
okay.
because it goes up by age. So if you're 63 or 64, you're going to get
The
much
fact
more
the fact of the
subsidy.
matter is, this is what matters. Now that I've gone through this, you want to get whatever you can. I mean, you pay whatever. Even if I paid $2,000 a month and just figured it out, I would have to pay less because I had some. Like having nothing is the dumbest thing you could ever do.
well, you
Period. I'm the dummy. Like that was.
Do you think it would cost you $2,000 a month?
No, I'm just making up numbers. I think I'm sure it would not. I'm sure it would be less than having a $900 car payment. I'm sure it would be less than
At your age,
At
it's
the end
gonna
of the
be
day,
pretty good.
like what?
At your age, it's going to be pretty good.
You can
Yeah.
get a pretty
Oh, yeah.
low. You can probably get a pretty low premium plan right now, but because it's not Affordable Care Act compliant, it's not going to cover, or it can. They can choose to not cover your pre-existing conditions, or they can limit the amount of coverage based on the fact that you're getting in after you already had something happen. We have a lot of clients who do that, and then when open enrollment comes in next year, then they get enrolled on an Affordable Care Act plan.
Yeah, I think my paradigm shift was the fact like I'll never worry again because of personal. I'll never be upset again whether it goes up or down and because I'm just thinking about like never wanting to be in that place.
Yeah, that's
At the end of the day, like I'm a contribution, so I'll just focus on growing my business, helping more people, and I set it up so the money will come. Like I'm just not even. I don't want to think in that scarcity mindset. Abundance.
I think a ride in a medevac helicopter makes a change of perspective for
Yeah,
anybody.
yeah. I mean, a scarcity mindset is saying, "Oh, I don't want to pay that $1,000 a month," but your arm could get chopped off, or your leg could get chopped off, or your whatever. It's just you want to be covered. I mean, it's just, and until you're there, sometimes you can't. I could never even have the conversation before.
Well, in retrospect, though, paying a $6,000 deductible would be nothing compared to what you're going to have to pay in claims.
yeah.
So
I mean,
That's the point. Yeah,
it's horrible what happened to you. It's sad, but at the same time,
I think it was a good learning lesson.
then you add your cost of your healthcare to it. It's really rough. A couple of people. So real quick, Raymond put up a post that said most people that can afford the deductible don't qualify for any subsidy. Most people that can afford the deductible cannot qualify for subsidy. That's a really good point, actually, when you think about that. What he's basically saying, if you have a high deductible, then you probably don't need the subsidy. Is what he's saying in that statement. I guess I have to agree with that, Raymond. But at the same time, you still actually may qualify. Again, it depends on your
well, I
income.
hate to put everybody in the one bucket when you say most people. That's not been my experience.
Yeah, and the other thing is just because you have a high deductible doesn't mean you're going to use it either. You could go through a whole year and see the doctor once and not use any of it. So
That's true, right? Absolutely.
Well, there's also different kinds of high deductible plans. So in a health savings account qualified plan, you do have a high deductible for everything, but it does cover your annual preventative care. That's the whole point. Secondly, you can have a high deductible plan where the deductible falls into place for the big things, but you can still see your doctor. You can still get tests. Sometimes you can still fill medications, and the new thing now is telemedicine. So most of these plans now have telemedicine built right in. You can see a doctor on your computer, on your Skype, on your phone.
What about the truth in I see a lot of stuff on Facebook of individuals that do have 9-to-5 corporate jobs. Theirs have like doubled and tripled. What about them? Is that like a myth? Is that fake book? Or is that what's going on? Like are people's, because I see that a lot. Like they have that 9-to-5, they do well, right?
Well,
They're that
it's-
middle class.
Yeah.
They feel like that they're paying for everybody else. Isn't that the cultural divide there? Is there truth to that?
Well, companies are cutting back on their subsidies for the employees, and that's happening annually. It happened to me, when I worked at Aetna. And talking about the high deductible, I mean, that's the same plans that are offered for employees that are getting subsidized from their companies. I mean, this is not just an Obamacare or ACA thing, and so it's the same insurance.
Yeah, but what I found, the other thing I didn't tell you, Gary, is I used to have a health insurance license. I used to work for Prudential many years ago selling health insurance. And the same thing I would find all the time, that the premium went up. It's just the way it is.
Right.
The premiums went up.
Right.
Healthcare is expensive.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, you have a society we're getting more and more unhealthy and so on and so forth. Like, obviously it would go up, right? Everything's going, inflation,
it's always been
the cost
going
of living always goes up. So is it the Affordable Care? I guess the question, because there's a lot of people I see that are complaining that theirs is going up, and it's because they're paying for other people. Is there truth to that, or is it just that everything is going up because life gets more expensive? That's a fiat current economy.
I'll address that, but let me answer your question first. So the employer coverage in small companies is basically the same as it is on the marketplace. So, but the change was that previously small businesses were able to offer rates called what we call composite rates. In other words, instead of being based on a person's age, it'd be based on the general age of the population of the employer. The simplest way to look at that is if they have 10 employees, if you added all 10 of their ages up and divide by 10, you'd have the average. That's what we had before. When the Affordable Care Act came along, they started rating people based on age, even in small businesses. So for a lot of employers, those rates went up higher, a lot more than they were in many, many years before that. They were always going up. But that was because now if you had an older workforce, you saw a bigger impact. So
I got it.
Yeah, and I think
sense.
one thing about
So wait, is that good or bad?
that's what it is.
It is what it
is. What it is. It's
Yeah,
not
right.
good or bad.
Just
how
deal
they-
with it.
It's how they
Okay.
the insurance companies can make money because they know what their risk is. But
Yeah.
and the other thing about Obamacare, I think that everybody has a bad notion about is that everything that happens in healthcare seems to be blamed on Obamacare, whether it's related to that or not. I mean,
Yep.
drug prices have been going up, and then everybody thinks, well, that's Obamacare did that. Insurance premiums have gone up. Obamacare did that. Well, it didn't. So it's just they're unfairly getting blamed for everything.
Well, there's definitely some things that are directly related to the increase.
Right.
Like the health insurance tax was 5% when they rolled the law out. That was 5% that went directly into the premium because the insurance companies weren't going to pay it.
Right.
So that goes right along to the premium payer. But, I think it's very easy to just blame everything on the Affordable Care Act. And I think that happens a lot too.
Yes.
So, but before the Affordable Care Act, the reason it became the law is because we're already dealing with skyrocketing premiums. It happened every year. The thing is, health insurance is expensive because health care is expensive.
Right.
Every single remedy that comes along never actually addresses the actual cost of health care. So until they do that somehow, it doesn't matter whether you're getting a subsidy to pay for the insurance or whether your employer is paying for it or whether you're on Medicaid, the cost of health care keeps going up. And nothing is addressing that. That's another thing for another day.
Yeah, well, I actually like where you're going with that because I would even say, and the cost of that is the education or the lack of in health and nutrition and all the things that people are sick because of lots of what we put in our body and all that kind of stuff, and that rises like it's all attached and it all goes back to what
you're
you
getting
said.
into you're getting into health itself, and that's a by way,
Well,
that's
the
a
driving force in this whole dang thing is that
a great
the only-
conversation for another show is
Yeah,
health
obviously.
itself, and actually I've got quite a few people to put on the show. We'll
Cool.
talk about that too.
Yeah, well, I just have one other
Sure.
question. So, and this is for Ed. So, not having health insurance, you get really sick and you can't afford to pay it, so you go bankrupt. So the hospitals and doctors don't get paid. And is that part of what raises the health care premiums?
It certainly does. In fact, before the Affordable Care Act, the law has been for 30 years that if you showed up in an emergency room,
Right.
they had to treat you whether you had the ability to pay or not.
Right.
Okay. When the Affordable Care Act came along, they did not change that. But what happened in the meantime is a lot of hospitals, they lost money
Right.
doing that. So certainly they start charging people more who are coming in with the insurance. They charge the insurance companies more, they pay more. It's a third-party payer system, so it was not a seen expense to the person.
Right.
You didn't walk in and pay the hospital out of your money. You paid with the money from the insurance company. So that was part of the problem. But these these hospitals were able to request federal reimbursements.
Oh, okay.
So that's called disproportionate share payments. When the Affordable Care Act came along, they stopped those because they said, well, everyone has to have insurance, so we don't have to keep paying the hospitals back the disproportionate share for uninsured people. And that's that's actually one of the bad things about the Affordable Care Act, because they just assumed that everybody would then have coverage.
Right.
Okay. Now, if you show up at the hospital without the ability to pay, they still have to treat you,
But they don't get reimbursed.
but they don't get reimbursed.
Okay, I get it.
So who do they hunt down for the money?
Nobody.
Well,
That's-
there's nobody
Us, they put in, they raised their rates on everything.
Yeah,
So the reimbursement rates go
Right.
up because the insurance companies pay.
Right.
that makes sense,
So
and that's
we
not
pay
going
it.
to solve.
Yeah.
So no matter what, you know, in a sense, Jay, and some of the people who think the way you are, you're right. The poor people are causing the rich people, or the richer people.
So wait, let's talk about the poor.
middle
So this
class,
is
right?
what the poor mindseted people. For example, every one of my associates was like, "Oh, you need to sue them because you'll win." My colleagues? Yeah. I met with attorneys and told them that their character needs to be aligned. So I could have got a clean $500,000 for this that turned down. I could still bankrupt because some was negligence actually. Like there was, I could have did a lot of things, and that would be a poor
All right.
mindset. So my
Hold on,
point
I
is,
want to stay on the health insurance
that-
on the health insurance point instead of because
it's poor mindseted people, not poor people. Poor mindseted people that want handouts.
It's
Yeah.
okay. I got you.
That's the
But what I'm
point.
trying to say is the point that a lot of people have is they're saying, hey, the poor people are causing the middle class and the rich to pay more. The reality is, it sounds like that's true, and however, don't we all can also, and especially you, Jay, can benefit from Obamacare. Now, I want to ask Ed, because we got about 5 minutes left. I want to ask Ed, what is your actual thought on? I don't want to say whether you're pro or for it, because I realize that would put you in a really bad position. But unless you want to, that'd be great if you want to tell me your
Well, a
opinion.
lot of people thought that, we wouldn't be around anymore. But if you think about it, the law made it illegal to not have what I sell. So how could I really be against it specifically? However, I think that it leaves a lot. There's a lot for every person who it helps, there's probably just as many people who don't have the same experience. And, they keep talking about taking it away. I think one of the worst things they can do is take it apart piecemeal, which is what they're trying to do right now. Okay, because you're trying to solve a problem by taking it away without actually providing a remedy. So, we in our business have always things have been changing for years. They've always changed. This is another change. Something else will continue to change. So, I'm not really for or against any of that specific, but I think there's a lot of things they could have done or they could do to take the law that we already have and fix some of the problems.
So can I ask you, and again, you don't have to answer if you don't want to, can I ask you if you are a Trump fan or not a Trump fan?
I'm not really a fan.
Okay, all right, excellent. So with that, a lot of people who aren't a Trump fan don't like Obamacare. A lot of people who are Trump fan just blanketly I'm sorry, just the opposite. The people who are Trump fans don't like Obamacare, and the people who are against Trump are automatically Obamacare lovers. And it's funny because I find this all the time, and I don't think that's an accurate or a smart way to be.
I don't think it's a good idea to make your decisions based on someone else's opinion.
I agree.
If you learn about it and you formulate your own opinion, you can go one way or another. I don't think that whether you like it or dislike it should be a political thing.
Yeah, and that's
Well
what
said.
when I was asked, responding to your comment about it's based on personal experience. That's
Right.
what I was referring to.
Right.
Is the fact that it's not always based on personal experience. It's
No.
based a lot on
What someone else tells you.
Whatever someone else tells you.
Right.
And that was what I was trying to
Right.
trying to say.
Right, and interestingly enough, I will find myself as a pro-Trump person. I can say that because it doesn't affect my business. Because I don't care if you don't want to talk to me because I'm pro-Trump. But I also am pro-Obamacare. I happen to like it. I happen to think, and I've said this to several people before. In fact, it was interesting that Ed and we were on a show together that I did a long time ago when Obamacare was first introduced, and I was like, this is great. Now, I got to tell you that what we talked about, a lot of that didn't even happen. So I liked the original better than the one it became, but the one it became is also great for me for several reasons. One is I have no idea what my income's going to be. So we talked earlier about it's basically a free loan, if you ask me. So I estimate my income. At the end of the year, I pay it back. If I make too much money, I pay it back. So that's fine. So I pay it back. And if I pay it back, it's interest free, so it's it's okay with me. Plus, sometimes my tax burden is really high, sometimes it's really low, depending on what I do. If it's really high, it just blends in anyway. It doesn't really matter. But if it's really low, I got this subsidy. Mm-hmm. So this year, as a matter of fact, I qualified for a small subsidy. I didn't even take it all because I was afraid that I'm actually thinking I'm going to make more money next year than I'm making this year. So I asked for less of a subsidy so I'd have less to pay back. But at the same time, I'm paying more. At one point, one of the years, a couple of years, the last 3 years, I was paying $10, and I thought that was fantastic. And in the end, I actually had to pay back about $3,600 to $4,000, but it worked for me. It was fine. Mm-hmm. Plus, I told you before, it's $1 million a year to keep me alive. So what do you think? I have two choices. I either have health insurance or I die. Right. I kind of like the idea of having health insurance.
Yeah, we want to do more shows, so just stay around, man.
So, all right, so we have about a minute left. Anybody want to say anything that's real important? What I want to do real quick, Ed, is I just want to show everybody. So this is your company, Total Benefit Solutions. I think it's important that we talk about that real quick. So why don't you tell us real about your company, how they can get a hold of you, and how they can get health insurance? Because I know Jay's going to be talking to you real soon.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, we have a website. It's totalbenefits.net. We also have a lot of people that find us right through our Facebook page. Again, Total Benefit Solutions is our Facebook page. And we help people get enrolled. I mean, that's really only part of it, though. We do help people stay covered during the year. We help them if they have a problem. We are their advocate, so it's a little different. We don't work for the insurance company. We work for our clients. So whether they don't have coverage and they need coverage, or whether they have to change something, I think it's important to have someone help you do it, because you make one mistake and you pick a bad plan, you're kind of stuck with that all year. And lots of people drop their plan because they think, oh, this is terrible, I never should have got it. And then you see what happens when you show up without coverage.
That's great.
So. Give me your card.
Okay. Yeah,
right.
Like that.
I got see that. I got you two new.
There you go.
Two new clients immediately, right?
Hell yeah.
All right, so that is it for today. This is the Larry Steinhouse Show. I'm so glad you guys joined us. This worked out exactly the way I hoped it was.
It's great.
At the beginning, I told everybody not to talk about it ahead of time because I didn't want to skew the conversation, and this conversation went perfect. If you guys like the show, we're going to be doing lots of other shows just like this. If you want to be on the show, once again, this is our studio. Take a look. It's pretty awesome, isn't it? I mean, I put a lot of money into this studio. I think that Facebook Live is going to be the greatest thing that's ever happened. I'm a big Facebook fan, as you guys know. I invest in Facebook all the time in the stock market. And I really think that this is going to be a lot of fun. If you want to be on the show, please send me an instant message or go to LarrySteinhouseShow.com and you can let me know you want to be on the show. And if you guys have any topics, if you guys want to IM me with topics, I'll be more than happy to talk about topics. And once again, please, if you watched the show and you thought it was valuable, please like and share it. And that is the end of that.